And less than a month ago, I decided to go back to being a vegan. I was a vegetarian for about 10 years, the last 3 of which I was a vegan. I was pretty healthy back in those days. I wasn't a disgusting fat body. And a couple of sicknesses that have happened in the past year have really scared me. Just colds and flu, where I just felt like the phlegm was so thick, I felt like I was drowning, and I actually considered going to the hospital. And I can still feel it right now. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and in that denomination we have what's called the health message, and everybody in the church knows it, and about 50% of the church practice it, and a lot, like 50% are vegan vegetarians. Maybe not that high, but a very high percentage. And so, you know, they have a very large medical network in the country and around the world, and they've done many clinical studies, and I've seen the results of many clinical studies that have been performed on not only short-term but long-term basis. And there's a lot of diseases that poorer countries, poorer cultures, they never have because they can't afford dead flesh. They're vegetarian by absolute necessity, and so they don't get colon cancer and a lot of heart diseases. And so I really don't have any excuse for being a backslidden vegetarian, and to my shame. And I probably would have lived a lot longer if I hadn't gone back to being a carnivore. And so anyway, I mentioned this before, that the flu shots, my experience with flu shots is amazing. I was taking care of my mother. She was in her mid-90s, and she had been growing more and more senile, but the day that she came home from a flu shot, that severed the last 3 circuits in her brain, and she was absolutely senile. It was amazing the transformation that took place immediately after getting the flu shot. And that always made me wonder. And then a few years later, I got a flu shot, you know, and I felt as though I had a stroke. I thought that I wasn't able to think clearly. And I remember the following day, I went to talk to an old friend of mine. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I went to speak to him, and I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. And I was embarrassed, and what happened there? And so I believe that flu shot did something to my brain, and I think I'd rather die of the flu than lose my mind. But there's a better way to solve this problem, and stop eating the junk of the standard American diet, the dead flesh and all the preservatives and hormones and garbage. I heard they've put flounder genes in tomatoes so that you can grow tomatoes in colder climates. And so you know, I don't want to be eating flounder when I'm thinking I'm just eating a tomato. So I just because of last year's flu and this year's flu, where I really thought that I could die, I have now decided no more dead flesh. I'm not going to be a meat eater anymore. I'm going vegan, and I know I'm going to get better. I'm going to get healthier. I might live another 10 or 15 years. Anyway, that's that.
Yeah.